because it starts to tell a story, and it's the drumbeat of that that actually takes what you've done and your reputation for accomplishing things and starts to create a reputation of how you think. And that is the value of teaching people about your potential, both in person and digitally and socially. Welcome everybody to the show. It is great to see all of you. For those of you, let me get a little show of hands. Who is a return participant to the Live with Joanna show? We've got a couple of folks that are in. Michelle, you don't count. You're required to be here by the rules. For those of you that are new to the show, welcome. We do love to see cameras on, because if Kelly, wave at everybody, Kelly didn't already tell you in the emails, we do lots of interactive stuff and transformations. And I'm going to be looking for, let me tell you, 2 people who want to work through a use case with me today. I've got actually a little tool that you can all use, and we're going to do them together to help you teach other people about your potential. So if you want to be a use case, and this isn't, I have a specific question to Joanna about my specific situation. This is literally, how do I use the tool? Ping Kelly, who is somewhere on my screen, and she will help me when we get to that point in the conversation. Just as a reminder, we're going to be talking about the idea of how do we teach people about your potential for about the next 20 to 30 minutes with everything that's happening here. Then we are going to be saying goodbye to anybody who's watching this on YouTube. And just for the folks that have shown up to the show today, we will be doing some open Q&A, and you can kind of ask me any questions, and you can stick around or you can not stick around, all of the things. But if you have questions or you want information on something more or anything, we've got Kelly in the chat room who waved earlier. She is there to help you. And is also who is going to help you in the follow-up after the show. You can always reach out and invite friends coming to the next one. Okay, so with all of that, what do I want to start with? Let me just start with this. There are 3 really important truths about your potential and what I think is important about teaching people about your potential. And I don't mean in the, what can I be when I grow up kind of potential. I mean this potential of the future you. And these are really obvious and simple concepts, but they're the things that I constantly see people forget. One, that your potential is actually somebody else's perception of you. So how somebody else sees who you could be in the future is actually the definition of potential. Now, you might have a definition too, but where things start to happen is when somebody else is looking at you and going, this is what you could do. Your potential is also, and I think as a conversation we don't have enough at all, the story of your future and what you could do, as opposed to the narrative of your past. And while what you've done and what you've accomplished and all of your skills and all of that good stuff is super, super, super important, why somebody decides to collaborate with you, decides to be friends with you, decides to put you on their project, decides to hire you, decides to engage with you in any way, it's based on, can they see and do they believe in the story of the future you? Are you the person that they want to have in the room with you? And so often we forget to have that conversation, and I think it's important to do that. With all of that, I'm also going to throw out there the one really challenging part of potential is infinitely easier to recognize if it looks and sounds like you. So I'm going to give you a really great example. If you think about who you made friends with when you were a little kid, and mostly we make friends with other kids who go to school with us, who are part of our cultural set, who are probably like, the girls make friends with the girls. And are there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely. I was very often the only girl in a boyfriend set. This isn't the issue. What I'm talking about is that when you think about, when you recognize the potential in somebody else, when they look and sound like you, whatever that age, gender, race, industry, culture, geography, all of the things, it's easier for you to be able to see how you can do something with them in the future than you can if they do not look like you and sound like you. Is this a fair thing? No. Do I think people miss out on all sorts of goodies because of this particular issue? Yes. Which is why I sit here and say, look, it is a truth that is universal. And if you as an individual say, look, I want to make it really easy for people to be able to recognize and remember my potential so that they can choose me in the future, you have to factor in that if you do not look like or sound like the person who is in essence purchasing you, that you need to do a little bit more work and you need to make it easier for them. Fundamentally, I think we should all do this, because if you make it easy for people to say yes to who you are and what you are going to do for them, the more likely it is they are going to choose you. Across work, across friendship, across all sorts of things. And I want to talk about that choosing you, because your potential is what people are renting from you in the workplace. When you think about professional potential, that is the thing that people are choosing. Your colleagues, your boss, your future manager, they all choose you because of all of the things. So, and I actually talk about the 3 core elements of you. There's the past you, your skills, your certifications, your reputation, what you've accomplished, which I think we can all agree, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, all of those things do an awesome job of talking about that. There's the present you, which is, how do you show up as a personality? Are you a tiny bit extroverted and run around with a giant pink background like I do? Or are you a little bit more introverted? Or, do you talk quickly? Do you have, like, how do you show up is absolutely who the other person is looking at. And then they are looking at the future you, your potential, and how you will think in the future and how you will solve problems. And if you think about the world of work and what people are selecting when they hire you, promote you, put you on the project, etc., and I'm going to keep saying this, is they're actually making a decision about the future you and your potential. And that is the difference between, are you going to get the interview? Are you going to get the promotion? Are you going to get the job? Are you going to get the opportunity? The bonus thing with that is that if you are intentful and clear about who that is, you are really thinking about, what is it I want to offer? Then you actually get to enjoy, for lack of a better term, the transaction. Because there is nothing more demoralizing, more tedious, more all of the bad words, than having what somebody wants from you and what you want to offer people be out of sync. Because while I've just said your potential is all about somebody else's perception of you, it is equally important for you to love the thing that you want to offer. Unless, of course, you've said, look, I don't need to love what I do for a living. I just want to get paid for it. And I have no qualms for that. My guess is if you are here and watching the show, it's because you want to love what you're doing. You want to feel like the work that you're doing is matters. And I think you want to learn and grow in your roles. And so you need really getting clear about who that is and what that's all about. The clearer you are about what it is you want to offer, as opposed to waiting for somebody to choose the thing that they want from you, means that you actually get to have agency. And we've all been in those jobs before. I was actually just talking to Kelly about where she and I used to work together at Pandora. And I'll tell you, for a very long time there, not only was I at my best because I understood why I mattered. I understood how I was learning and growing, and I was intensely excited about what it is we were doing, but so were all of the people around me. And not only did they know what I was trying to do, but I understood what they were trying to do. And that's when we all started to do the kind of high five, low five moment that you can happen when a team is really humming together. And if you were going to ask me separately around what is the key to success in work, I think it's absolutely optimizing for, is what I have to offer going to matter to the people I'm offering it to? And is it what I want to offer? And am I excited and curious about what it is I'm going to do? All of that over compensation, because for everybody on this call, I want you all to get paid for what you do. Because if the what do you want to do, how are you excited, matches up with what do they want and how are they excited, over compensation equals 1, everybody tends to be happy. And we've all been in those opportunities. It's if compensation is off, then people don't get happy, or if what they want and what you want to offer are off, then people don't get happy too. And so I sit here and I go, like, how do we actually optimize for that question? And that is what we are going to talk about today, because as your ambition guide and aspiring fairy godmother, this is what I talk about every week on the show, and some version thereof, because I think in the world of work, we all need to start getting better and start adding language about the future of you, because not only do you get to love your job, but the people who in essence rent your future time get to love you exactly for who you are, which is what we're all trying to optimize for. So I've given you a bit of a lecture about what I think about the future you. Now let's actually get into the practical application. So how then do we teach other people who might want to buy your future time, about your potential? So 1, we need to get all on the same page about renting your future time. That's the product that you are selling to people. And I am going to say sales, because there's a transaction that happens. They choose you, they pay you, and all of those things. And one of the other questions there we want to ask is, why do they buy? So what are they choosing and why do they buy? Let's talk about that thing first. Well, they're choosing something because, and you think about any product that you purchase, is for unique, memorable, recognizable, and simple. These are the 4 things that I want you to think about when you are talking about yourself to somebody else or teaching them about your potential. And why all 4? So unique, because you are unique and there's no one else like you. And if you are, let me give you some examples. So if you're telling people, I'm super strategic, or I'm really good at getting things done, or I'm incredibly creative, how many of you, I've given you strategic, good at getting things done, and creative, how many of you would say, yeah, that's all me all day? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Guess what? Surprise, surprise, that is everybody. So not unique, super boring, and what everybody does. So important, because if you're not those things, well, I hate to break the news to you, but you'll find yourself without a job relatively quickly. But those are the key things. Like, those are what I call table stakes things. So as you are thinking about, like, what is it I need to teach people about my potential? Stop going for the stuff. Like, the question I always ask myself is, would I be fired if I didn't do this? Right? And if the answer to that is yes, it probably means it's a table stakes thing and you shouldn't be talking about it because it's not very unique. And by the way, lots of other people are talking about. Second one I talked about on there was memorable. So if you are new to the show, welcome to hearing this for the first of many, many, many times. Every decision made about you and your opportunities is made in a room you are not in, which means that for an opportunity to be given to you, somebody in that room not only needs to know you, but needs to know that your hand is up and that you are available for dates, and they need to know what to say about you. Now, think about what I just said about how you describe yourself and the unique thing. How many of you would say, if I went to my former boss and said, why am I really good at what I do? How many of them would get an answer like you're just really good at getting shit done, right? Again, generic answer. Next time you go ask, and here's my challenge number one to the audience today, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're seeing this live, go to your boss or your former boss and ask the question, what is it you value about the work that I do? If you do not know the answer to that question, you should go find out. Critically important, because that is why they are buying you. And by the way, that is probably what they are saying to other people in the room that they are not in. If they come back and say, well, because you're really good at getting shit done, they've just given you the lazy answer and what everybody expects to do. And you go, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. But what you're telling me is that you trust my process. And so what is it about my process that you like? What is it about my playbook that you value? That's going to give you a much more insightful answer about the value of the future you. When they answer that question, then ask them what's memorable about that. Because remember, if you are going to get people in that room to talk about your potential and why you are unique, they need to be able to remember it, which is why memorable is on my list of criteria. And memorable could be like unique, could be really memorable. Like I run around and talk about how I'm an aspiring fairy godmother. I do that on purpose because it's kind of weird and sticks out a little bit. And people go, wait, what is that all about? It's a little wonky, but it gets people's attention and it's memorable. Like people now are like, oh, Joanna, the fairy godmother lady, have you got wand? Where are your sparkles? All of that sort of thing. I use a catchy, ridiculous phrase methodology. That's because it works for me, because the product of Joanna is like Bette Midler meets Tony Robbins with a dash of Steve Wozniak on the side, right? Gene Roddenberry, we switch them out depending on who I'm talking about. That's the fairy godmother is the Bette Midler version of me. It is authentic to me. So my comment here is memorable does not necessarily mean a silly label and jazzy language, unless a little kookiness is part of who you are and what you're all about. Memorable could be like, I'm going to use somebody who I think did this in such a genius way. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a genius at being memorable because she was consistent about her personal ambitions to actually make equality happen in the work. Did she run around and say, I'm the equality champion? No. Her memorable piece was her collar, and made it really super easy for people to actually learn what she was thinking just from something visual. So there's a different memorable for everybody as you are thinking through that. Okay, next one on the list is recognizable. So you remember how I said that your potential, while it's about you, it's not about you, it's actually somebody's perception of you. Can they see it? Do they recognize it for what it is? So another example of how you can really almost beta test, is the language or how am I talking about myself working for me? Going again to your boss, a former boss, or even a colleague and saying, look, when I describe who I am going to be tomorrow, how I think, what I'm all about, I describe it like this. What does that mean to you? So actually have a conversation with somebody and share language that you have and have them feed it back to you, because if they can't see what you see, they are playing a different movie in your head, in their head. Really, really important for anybody on this call or anybody watching who's trying to pivot their career. Because think about this in a career pivot scenario, and it's a pretty dramatic one, and why I use it. So you, as an example, and I think we have somebody on the show, have, well, you've had 20 years of experience in the healthcare industry, I'll do academia. You've had 20 years in academia, and you now want to work in corporate America. It's going to be really easy for almost anybody if you've got professorships and universities and all of that past narrative says higher education, higher education, higher education. It's going to be really hard for somebody who's in corporate America to go, well, hang on, I don't understand, like they don't speak the language of higher education. Their experience with higher education has only been with the students. So their movie of what does a professor do is probably completely different than the reality of what does a professor do. So as an example, let's say you're trying to go from professor to working in corporate America. Again, slightly dramatic example. Your job is to actually bridge the language from academia language. How do you run projects? How do you get things done? How do you get agreement across decision makers? How do you process change through an organization that doesn't change very fast, as an example, into the language of corporate America? And sometimes you actually need to go find out what that language is, because there's going to be pre-assumptions about the movie in their head based on what it is they know about you and what do they know about the topic that you're talking about. So remember, very, very, very important, that recognizable is what movie are they playing. And then last but not least is simple, which I know sounds easy, but is not. Because here's what I've learned from working with lots of folks like yourself, is when I first start talking to somebody and I go, oh, hey, tell me about yourself and all of the things that you do and what are you great at? And I do a big Q&A with them about why they are uniquely awesome. And we probably spend at least the first 30 minutes talking about all the stuff. Because as human beings, we are fascinating, complex people who have an abundance of stories that make up who we are and what we're all about. But one of the first things that we do with our folks is we actually go out and do the market research for them and find out what things people are saying about them in the room that they're not in. And one of the first exercises we do is we ask their sponsors, what 4 words would you use to describe the person? And inevitably, we end up with a giant word cloud of words. And inevitably, at the end of the day, the person really globs onto one of them. And so when somebody's talking about you in the room that you're not in, not only do they need to remember it and recognize it, but they need something really simple that they can say fast, because they are not going to talk about all the things that are you. They're going to talk about 1, maybe 2 things that are about you and what you're all about. And when you are trying to influence the decisions made about you in the room that you're not in, being consistent about your 1 or 2 things, like a brand, means that people are going to remember it over time. And being consistent about what those things are. And yes, you can have all the other things later, but what is the thing that gets people intrigued? So again, you think about, like, if they are buying your future time as a project, the first thing you want people to go is say, that is super interesting, tell me more. Right? And if they're saying that is super interesting, tell me more, then you can talk about all the things. But if you start out with all the things because you're worried that they won't pick, like, you've got all the things, and well, what if they want that thing and not that other thing? They're going to end up tuning you out. I don't know how many of you are subscribed to my newsletter. If you're not, Kelly's going to put a link in the chat, because I just threw her in the deep end and asked her to do it without her knowing. But I wrote an article the other day about boxes and how in the world of boxes, because we all get put in boxes because our brains have to be able to put us in a box. If you put yourself in too many boxes, people can't choose you. And so for those of you who are like, but I'm a generalist, or I can solve any problem, or that you just made yourself too hard to buy. How is it you can be intriguing and get somebody to go, oh, tell me more? So that you can then have, like, how are the other ways that you can use the product of you in lots of different ways? You know, kind of like a microwave. Microwave is sold as an excellent way to make popcorn really quickly. Can a microwave do a whole bunch of other stuff? Totally. But isn't it interesting how they always talk about popcorn? And they do not talk about the microwave's wattage, or how much space it's going to be on the schedule, on the counter, or any of those sorts of things. Yes, think about yourself like you are microwave, right? Okay, so what was I saying there? Unique, memorable, recognizable, and simple. Step 1. And yes, I know that's hard. So then step 2, how do you start teaching people? We are now going to get a little bit interactive. So if you are interested in playing with me in just a second, give Kelly a ping because I'm going to be asking her. If you have a piece of paper somewhere, I want you to just, and I hope you all can see this, draw just an X on a piece of paper. And in the top right-hand corner, I want you to, like right up here, so it's sort of doing the ping thing. Right up here, I want you to write do. Green screen's not playing. There we go. And the bottom one, I want you to write grow and change. I'm not going to hold this up anymore because it's not working. And the top right-hand corner, I want you to write want. And the bottom right-hand corner, I want you to write believe. Because here is what you can, if you want that equation to work, I want you to fill out. So under the do, your answers, what I want you to just bullet out is a couple of things that you want to be able to do. Like, what are the things in work that you want to do when you show up every day? Then underneath in the grow and change column, how is it you would be excited? What is it that would excite you? Do you want to learn a thing? Do you want to build a thing? Do you want to change a thing? You don't even need to know what the thing is. Like if you're a builder, if you're a learner, you're a changer, you want to collaborate, like what is the thing that motivates you to get up every single day? Then on the other side of the equation, on the want, it's who's buying you and why would they want you? This is the other perspective. And then at the bottom, what is it you need them to believe about you? Okay. Kelly, did we get somebody to volunteer to do this with me? Did anybody put their hand up? Who is game?
Nobody's raised their hand yet.
For a little Joanna magic. I promise you that you will look good if you do this. Leslie, you look like you're waving your hand around. That's awesome. Can we get you off mute?
Yes, I will do it. What the heck?
You make it sound, well, so now I have to ask you, like, why are we hesitant to do this? Help me, help you, help them.
No one wants to be embarrassed.
And have you been to the show before?
Well, yes, you did a nice thing for me, so that's why I raised my
By
hand.
embarrassed, I mean, other than when we do the Q&A at the end, and I often tell people they're being boring or not playing a big enough game. When we are recording, do I ever embarrass anybody? Or do I generally make them sound more fabulous than they were before?
You generally make everybody sound really good, so yeah.
I say all of that because I'm also going to point at Michelle and say, like, we need to get that video on there to send to all the people, because I get
no, you do a great job at making us all look good.
I get that this is scary, and I get that I can be a tiny bit intimidating, and I get that I give you no context. But here's the thing, folks, like, any opportunity you can take to invest in yourself is always an excellent bet. Always. And if you think about the times that you have made bets on yourself, it has always paid off. So I just kind of throw that out there for a thing. And Leslie just bet on herself because she's awesome. Okay. All right, Leslie.
Yes.
I'm going to pretend I know nothing because I work better when I do this. We're going to fill in your grid right now. So
it's great. Yeah.
In the world of, well, let me ask you first, because context matters. Why do we need to teach people about the future you? Like, what's going on in your life that is a necessity?
There's lots of reorganizations where I am. So people who used to know me have left. And so I need to sell myself internally and externally too, because I'm not sure if I like all the changes. So.
Okay. So internal for sure, possible external.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I am now going to say, let's pretend you have to meet one of the new people that are coming in and all of the reorgs, because this is actually, I think, for a lot of people, a very common situation right now. So what 3 things, and I will help you with this because I will do Q&A with you. What 3 things do you want them to know that you are really good at doing for the do box?
All I can think of are big words. Pulling together very complex things and making them simple.
Okay.
So I run big programs and I have to explain the value quickly and sell them on helping me to move things forward. Because a lot of my work effort is getting rid of blocks. I need more resources that do this, or I need you to change our prioritization. I need money or whatever it is,
Okay. Okay.
I also like working with people. I make it fun.
That's a table stakes one.
Oh, damn.
I know it's important.
Yes.
I know it's important, but that's a table stakes one. I've got some stuff for you. What,
Okay.
what would make work exciting for you? Because obviously I've gotten a little bit of I'm not sure I want to stay, but why is it you love, when you are crushing it, doesn't even need to be now. This could have been in the past. What's going on? Is it a learning opportunity? Is it a build? Do you get to build things? Is it I get to work with a zillion personalities and the human factor is fascinating to me? Is it making things? What is the thing for you?
The thing for me is working with people to build a solution and having it be successful. So, because I can't do it on my own. I have to surround myself with experts. So I got to find those experts. I got to pull it out of them. And we build it and create it, implement it, and it's exciting in that sense. So I like going in when oh, we're going to implement tomorrow, or oh, we're going to train, or oh, we're going to roll this out to new people. Those big milestones that is communicated wider than your team. So now we're showing the value to the organization or the department or the group. It's when those are successful, you've successfully, people come back and go, that training was great,
Okay. Okay. And is there anything in your future that what's your ambition?
My ambition is to have more transformational initiatives. So more challenges, business challenges from the business, bringing people together, more programs, either running a portfolio of those or running some big hairy things.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you all just heard the questions I was asking, because I hope, just a reminder, you can always go back to YouTube and watch the show again. If you were hang on a second, I don't remember what she said. You can go back and listen to the questions again because we're recording all of this. But what I wrote in your do box was 3 sets of words. So one, I said synthesizer.
Yes.
Then I said block remover. And then I said needs analyzer. Right? And in the grow change, I wrote builders, motivated by big milestones, and transformer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, already, just on and I don't know if you can't, I can't see this. These bullet points. Yeah, there we go. I got it up there. These bullet points really tell a much more compelling story about you and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's flip over to the other side, because I want to make sure we cover that as well. What is it people want from you? Why do people go, oh, come join my team?
Honesty, the integrity of getting it done. Like I say, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Okay. I know that's table stakes, right?
Yes.
I just realized that when you rolled your eyes. Table stakes.
Yep.
My experience, my track record shows that what you throw at me, I will be the learner to figure out how to make it happen.
Okay. I don't like that as a word, so I've written down another one, but we'll keep going. What else?
Okay.
What else? Why else do people want you on their team?
I'm fun. It's table stakes. I know. Okay. I am inclusive.
Why is the fun thing important?
Well, the stuff we do is not always entertaining. You know, some of this is just basic, keep the business lights on and stuff. So you have to, it's the human aspect of making it, you know, the meeting not, you know, not as boring or just route.
Okay.
You want people to show up, you know, and not just read your notes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Why would people want me? I have a lot of experience of successful transformations. So there is a track record there.
It's kind of the same thing as the first thing as you said.
Okay. Who is buying me?
I'm going to let you off the hook for anything more, but
Okay.
I would really challenge you, especially for the folks that you used to work for who have now left. I'd go ask them these questions.
Okay.
Right? Because at the very least, coming back, and folks, this is for everybody. And I am constantly personally asking these questions, like much to Kelly and Michelle's horror. I'm always like, what do you think? How do you think? I drink my own Kool-Aid here, but going back to your old bosses and saying, hey, you're not around anymore. I need to give people a cheat sheet on how I can add value to them. And yes, my reputation is stellar. Thank you very much. But actually, like, what is the cheat sheet to help them understand how to collaborate with me is what I'm looking for. And so you chose me in the past. Why? And just find out what their answers for you. I will also say one of my favorite questions, which is a teensy bit scarier, but will give you equally interesting answers, is then how is it you are ambitious for me? Because they are then, you want to know how to find out how people recognize your potential? The answer to that question is in the how are you ambitious for me? How many of you on the call today are going to ask somebody that one question?
Oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Nothing's going to hurt. Plus, bonus points if you are looking for a job. This is one of the easiest questions you can ask your current network to help you find a job. Did you remember how I talked about that movie thing being out of sync? If they already have a vision of what the movie of you is and how awesome you are, they're going to have that movie playing in their head, and it's going to be easy for them to remember that. Okay, last thing, what do you need people to believe about you in the future? Other than that you can do it, because that's a boring answer, but what do you need them to believe?
That I can organize anything. I'm a logistics queen. I look for gaps. What do they have to believe in me? They have to believe that, oh, well, yeah. It's so hard to get away from the generic stuff.
Yep. Do remember we're just doing this. Like, this is why you can go back and do this, but this is a bit of the cheat sheet. What else? What really pisses you off in the work? Like, if this doesn't happen, you just are like, God damn it.
I mean, people fail me, and that's what will piss me off. So I don't want them to fail. How do I am dependent on lots of people, and I put a lot of trust in them to make it happen. So you have to believe that I'm going to do my best to enable all those people to be successful.
Okay. All right. So here's what I wrote down on your want and believe. On your want, your reputation thing you talked about a lot. All right, I'm going to give a brutal truth on this, only because I can see your hair color. And ageism is an issue, right? And I realize your tenure and your experience have gotten you to where you are, but they've got a new story they're telling, because I'm guessing some of the people who've come in or have less gray hairs than you do.
Yeah.
I won the genetic lottery. I should have a lot more than you're seeing right now. I'm just going to put that out there. And so I want to make sure as you are thinking about the future you, that you are not just leaning on your history, right?
Yes.
And so when I think about what people want from you, is your reputation is stellar, like you don't need to talk about, but what they need is a navigator, right? What they want is, and I think I put you said keeping when the lights need to be on, it's also entertaining. I think there's something there that you could play with, right? And then on the believe, I wrote organize anything. I think the logistics queen was way more interesting. Like how many of you were like, oh, logistics queen, I love that. I'm totally stealing it. See, hands went up. I think your looks for gaps is actually, you are a risk mitigator. Thank you for lunch, whoever delivered that. The reason I asked the pissed off question is my guess is if it pisses you off when other people do it to you, you won't do it. And so there's nothing that annoys you more than failure. And so you do almost anything you can not to fail. So now I've got this beautiful, simple, but you can't see because my green screen isn't working, one-sheeter. If you send a note to Kelly with your email address, I'll take a picture of this, even though it's horrible hand scratch, and send it to you. That if you change the titles from do, change, want, believe to value, grow, solutions, potential in those 4 boxes, you now have a really simple one-sheeter that when you go in to have a meeting with whoever you need to have a meeting with, if you need to send a sheet, you send them this one-sheeter and you say, oh, thank you, here. There we go. I'm not sure you can even read it, but you literally say, look, this is the cheat sheet to learn about me, because they already know what you do. They've seen your title. They know you work at your company, all of this sort of stuff. And this becomes a cheat sheet. It's also a cheat sheet as you go. It's like, say, for instance, you want to have a conversation with a recruiter. Like, I don't think there's a recruiter on the planet who wouldn't be excited to get one of these in their inbox when they're having an informational conversation with you. Because they are making assumptions based on your labels and your stickers and all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
This tells, look, I look like that cartoon character. This tells a story about you. It's really much more, this talks about the nuance and the complexity, but is easy to remember. There's some consistency across here. And even to a certain extent, I'd almost take it down to 2 bullets on each. So synthesizer needs analyzer. I think your motivation on the change and the transformer person. So milestone transformer in the grow and change. Navigator and entertainer in the want. Logistics queen. And fear of failure. I think you can absolutely put that under believe.
Okay.
How many of you are like, I get why Leslie is awesome now? Anybody who was looking for a logistics person would be like, I would totally hire somebody if they talk like that. We don't have any logistics person, but I get like, that's like, I can see your reputation and your tenure. This is modern and future focused, which when you look at what are the objections we're going to have to handle for you, you need to be modern and not just rely on what you've done.
Should I color my hair too?
Yeah. Well, unless your course you are, and I think, context is everything, and who you are selling yourself to is everything. Because as an example, so, I have worked for lots of people in my past as well. And do I need to do this sort of a conversation with somebody who I've worked for before? No, absolutely not. I can totally cheat that whole game because they already, actually what I would find out from them is what story do they think they're telling? I have somebody in my network who I've worked with multiple times who even I struggle with. I'm like, no, not that guy anymore. I'm actually this other person over here. I continue to teach them. And this, folks, you'll notice I did this on a really crappy sheet of paper. This can be on a crappy sheet of paper. Plus, bonus points, and I know you've all seen me do this. If you are in person, you do not need to keep the crappy sheet of paper because this should already be in your head. Give it to them and leave it with them. This is your business card, corporate swag, whatever, because this makes it easy to remember. Now, I know some of you are like, oh my God, I can't do that. That's really super hard. Go find that person who I said, go ask them how they're ambitious for you. Go do this with them and say, look, when I think about what value do I bring, which is the, whoops, I've got this upside down, which is the left-hand side of the column. And what do people need from me, which is the perception of the future me? Is this the story that you tell about me? And what would you change on this? Now, I will give you a warning shot across the bow. I guarantee you there is nobody else out there using this formula. And I guarantee you that if somebody is a super fan of you, they're going to be all like, oh, no, but your value is your ability to get things done. And you have to say, I know, except for you know how I get things done. And it's actually about how I get things done. And so what I'm trying to teach people is how I get things done when they don't know me, which is a different conversation.
Yeah.
Because this is not the new normal formula. Helpful? Are you going to go out and do it? You're going to give it a test try? You're going to do the things?
Oh, you bet.
Yay. Okay. So only because I went super long and I want to leave time for open Q&A, we're not going to do a second one, but I will put out a challenge to all of you guys. If you are game for playing, we, as always, have our 2 week text challenge. It's $10. We do that so you have skin in the game, where over a 2 week period, we send you a text every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I say we, I mean me, because I am the one who does it. And I'm going to give you a challenge every one of those days that literally will take you 10 minutes or less to complete. It will certainly make you think. And if you respond to me, you are not required to, we'll have a little chat. I think I actually called somebody boring on a text earlier this week. I was like, play a bigger game, because they were being generic. And that is my job. I am your ambition guide. I'm there to push you just a smidge out of your comfort zone. And I am so confident that even with doing little text over a 2 week period, that I guarantee you will have an aha moment. If you do the things on the challenges, you will be like, oh, I get it. This is a brilliant way of practicing what I preach and how to do things and actually do a tiny investment in the future. Kelly's, I hope, already dropped a link in the chat on how to sign up for this. So we will do that. Other things for you to note before we go to the winner this week and go to open Q&A. This can be posted on LinkedIn. But who says you couldn't, right? This could be in your about section on LinkedIn. You could tweet about this. You could put some of this up on your background on your Zoom call. You could do all sorts of things with this. But as you have gotten down to the simple words, like, and in Leslie's case, synthesizer, analyzer, builder, oh no, it wasn't builder, it was milestones, transformer, logistics queen. Like, Leslie, I don't know how active you are on either LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever your social media platform of choice is. There's an opportunity to teach people through the smallest thing, and literally putting, like, you could put logistics, hashtag logistics queen on absolutely everything you post. Like, do one, and even if it's a comment on somebody else's, like if somebody's writing an article about robotic process automation or something like that, like, what a great, like, go look for RPA articles, because that's your business, right? That's where the future of your work is going.
Yeah.
So then comment on it, like, have an opinion, and just put hashtag logistics queen at the end of it. Because here's the thing, I did an experiment many years ago where for 100 days, I put the hashtag Lady Badass all over the internet just for fun. And it has been 6 years and still people call me the Lady Badass. Ended up naming my dog after this as well because I'm completely obsessed. But it can happen that fast in getting something that makes you unique and memorable. And now I've said Lady Badass again, and it's going to take me another decade to get rid of that word because it happens that fast. And so you could like pick, it doesn't even need to be logistics queen. Like you could pick navigator or synthesizer, because it starts to tell a story, and it's the drumbeat of that that actually takes what you've done and your reputation for accomplishing things and starts to create a reputation of how you think. And that is the value of teaching people about your potential, both in person and digitally and socially. So that is the show today, folks. Kelly, before we go, you want to do the who gets to do a thing?
Yes. First, before we get into that, I want to remind everybody while we are talking about visuals that in 2 weeks, our next show, which is on September 3rd, is all about how to show your brilliant brain using visuals. And Joanna has a bunch of really cool ways for you guys to do this. So along the same vein, it's my favorite show. Sign up and come. The winner today is Pammy. Can't see her face right now, but Pammy, we're super stoked that you won. There she is. And I'll be sending you an email with some next steps, and you're going to get some time with Joanna.
Yay.
I have to take credit here because I sent the link to the show to Pammy yesterday.
Yes.
And Sarah.
Ooh.
I told both of them to go and see this one today.
So friend of Leslie, we should put that in the file so we know that as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so now
Thank you,
Pammy,
Leslie.
was Leslie right? Was this worth your time?
It definitely was. It was.
Hooray.
Thank you, Leslie.
Fantastic.
You're
I'm like-
welcome. Let me know.
Yeah.
That's okay.